system. So we have a basic database design. We have some tables created, and we have some information entered in one of those tables. I want to point up a couple of things here. One, the object of this whole design process was to create what is sometimes called in the industry a normalized database design. Normalized. What that means in general terms is you've created a table structure that stores all the information only one time. The company name is stored once. The company ID is stored. People table, of course, for each person who works for that company. But we don't store the address for the company more than once. We don't store the telephone number for the company more than once. That creates a normalized table, a structure that minimizes storage and makes the database operation as efficient as possible. If you wonder whether you've created a proper design, there's a little tool that I'd like to at least introduce to you, a wizard that helps you do the data analyzation of your database design. We still have this table on the screen. I can close it by double-clicking in the upper left-hand corner here. And then I'm going to use the Tools menu. Click on Tools and choose Analyze. And that pops up this little sub-menu, and choose Table. We want to analyze our table structure. This is the first screen of the Analyzer wizard. And it's actually a pretty good tutorial. It gives you an idea of what kind of data entry problems you might encounter, how they might be corrected. Shows you some examples. I recommend this to you. It's just a tutorial on basic data entry and table design. Use the Show Me examples here and step through that. Go to the next screen, and it's showing you what happens if the data seems to be entered too often in the same table. The wizard can split the tables into multiple tables for you, and it's showing you how that might work here. Again, there's some text and some examples to step you through it. If you click Next, now it's ready to actually start its work. What table would you like to analyze? Well, we have data in the company table. Let's try that. Do you want the wizard to decide how the tables might be split? Yes, let's do that. So we'll click Next. Now it's suggesting, based on just a brief scan of the table design and the data that's in that table, are you sure you don't want a separate city-state table here? Well, why did it do that? The reason is we typed the city Knoxville in 2 records. And we had a relatively small number of records for this wizard to analyze. So it's suggesting, since I see Knoxville in there twice, maybe you need a city table and a state table. Well, we don't really want to do that. In this case, the wizard sort of made a mistake. And you have to take the suggestions of a wizard like this with a pound of salt sometimes. You don't want to just arbitrarily accept its suggestions. But the analyzer is a good tool. Once you've completed a database design, running this analyzer will point up any serious problems. Again, look at what it's suggesting. Don't accept the changes if you know that, yes, there are multiple entries for one city, multiple entries for one state, but that's what we had in mind. You can prevent some of this with in the design screen of your database table design, and we'll talk about that at another time. Now, one other idea. We've used from-scratch techniques, the straight shift method, as I've called it, for creating and designing a database. This product, this Access program, contains a number of wizards and pre-programmed templates that can do a lot of the work for you. And if you believe that your data is fairly standard, if it matches some of the pre-designed database designs that come with Access, then maybe you don't go through this laborious process that I've just described. Rather, you can use some of the built-in features. Let's look at that. We left off with the analyzer on the screen. Since we don't want to make any changes, we'll cancel that, and we're back to our contacts database. I want to show you how to create a similar database using one of the built-in wizards. So let's close this out using this button in the upper right-hand corner. That brings us back to basic Access. And I'm going to use the File New command, New Database, to display this new dialog. Notice we have 2 tabs, one that says General. If I want to start from scratch, as I did before, and create a blank database, this is the one to choose. But if I want to make use of some of the pre-programmed features in Access, choose Databases. And look what we have. This is really a rich collection of pre-formed databases that you can use as a starting point for your own designs. It's really a good way to go. It provides a number of tools, pre-programmed programmed, and it helps you understand which fields and which record structures and table structures you need. You can browse through these and get some information as you need to. Let's start with contact management, because that's sort of what we just did from scratch. If I double click here, then it says where do you want one, and say create, and then the wizard's going to run. There's the opening screen of the wizard. It says what it's going to do. Click next to continue, and we'll do that. Now we have a chance to customize this pre-programmed design. Here are the tables that the wizard will create: contact information table, call information table, and contact types. In some ways, this is a simpler design than the one we just created, because it's going to assume you're going to store the address with each contact name. And these are the fields that will appear in the contact information table. We can scroll through here and see if there's anything we might not want to include. For example, if you know you'll not be doing mail merge, you may not need the Dear field. This is where you would put in Dear John, Dear Mr. Smith, or whatever. Any field you decide you do not want to use, just uncheck it. And there are some fields that have not been included but could be. For example, if you want to include the home phone, just click that. Fax number's there. A lot of times if you're working in a sales environment, it's helpful to know birth dates, so you can send birthday cards and other reminders. Marital status. See, we can select a range of information to follow that particular contact. You make the choice there. To look at another field, simply choose the field and see if there's data there that you'd like to include or disallow. Contact types, that's simply that little reference table that keeps track of the contact ID and the contact type. And I'm going to say here, show sample data. When you include sample data in a pre-programmed database such as this, it helps you understand the design, because you can step through it and see what data is already there. Click Next. Then you have a chance to choose the pattern for forms and other on-screen objects. It's a wide variety. You just step through and choose what you like. Standard is the standard gray, white, and black. Then it asks, what about reports? I like corporate. That's one of my favorites. Click Next. It asks you what you would like to call it. You want to give it a new name here or accept the default? We'll accept the default and click Next. Then it's saying one final time, I'm going to start now. Do you want to go back and change anything, or shall I proceed? Click Finish. And you can watch the wizard begin to do its work. It's creating the database itself, creating the relationships, creating the forms and tables that we'll need. A screen that looks something like this. This is really just a specialized form. This is called a switchboard in Access. It's a customized menu that sort of isolates you from the database window that we've been showing. And as you can see, I can choose Enter New Contacts. If I click there, I simply get a form. There's a contact already entered. Remember, we said include sample data. So here's a form that gives us a window into that data table for contacts. And we can look at that or step to the next screen. This actually has two screens in one form. We can go to the next record by using these navigation tools at the bottom, and we can exit by double-clicking here and go back to the switchboard. Interview other information and so forth. At the bottom of the screen, if you notice right here, here is your actual database window. You can show that if you wish, and that looks more like the conventional access screen you're used to seeing. But you can hide that if you wish and simply use this custom menu.